I'm Danielle.
And I'm Tyler.
Welcome to our channel, Never Not Sailing. We've spent the last few months sailing around Australia or attempting to, and that trip turned into a road trip around Australia instead. So we started off the year with a plan to sail around the world, and we had to cross the Great Australian Bight in order to do that. Unfortunately, things went awry and we had to turn back and head home to Adelaide. We'd left our jobs and we had the rest of the year. Luckily, we were able to change our plans really quickly and continue our adventure, but by road instead of by sea.
And what this really means for you guys is that we're able to break down the costs, the emotional tolls, physically what we went through, what our planning was, and all of that sort of stuff. So that if there is anyone out there, unlikely as it might be, there's someone comparing whether to go full driving and live that van life or to go sailing by boat and do that sort of life. This is the video for you. We'll break down the costs of what we did and how we went about it.
So let's talk about phase one, which is planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And I bought a boat in May of 2019. And so what that boat was a 38-foot Bavaria. It's 3 cabins. It's got the long keel edition. So it's a 2-meter keel, which makes it a bit tricky to get around some places. But she's a beautiful little boat, Jenny Anna. So you'll see her in the videos if you go back and watch some of those in the past. Now, this is going to be no holes barred kind of experience. What that boat cost me was $142,000.
So when I came along, Tyler had already bought Jenny Anna and convinced me to leave our lives and go on this adventure with him, which didn't take much convincing at all whatsoever. But there was a lot of planning that went into it, and the first one was what we're going to do with our jobs. So Tyler quit his, and I fortunately work as a teacher for the Department of Education in South Australia, which entitles me as a permanent teacher to take leave without pay. So that's what I've done. Some of the other things that we did in order to prepare was do a bunch of training. So Tyler had done some, but I had done none in my entire life. I'd never been out on a sailboat at all. And so we went for just, cruising sails around North Haven where we live, but there was training to be done. So I did a competency crew course with the RYA, the Royal Yachting Association. Tyler did a skipper's course, a day skipper's course, and then did your yacht master's course, which was really thorough and not only practical, but a lot of theory as well.
We'll get into the upgrades that were done on the boat as well. So some of the things that were done were we upgraded the power to 600 amp hours of lithium batteries, installed a 3,000 watt inverter, upgraded the solar panels on board, and then the battery to battery charger, that was all upgraded. We installed a water maker. I built a freezer from scratch and we installed that. Upgraded the cooling system on the fridge. What else? We did a HF radio installation. We upgraded the VHF so that it would have DSC. I replaced the the wind meter on top of the mast. I've replaced that. And we upgraded the chart plotter at the helm station and installed a new chart plotter inside the cabin. One last thing to mention, we installed an Iridium Go, so for satellite internet and communication while we're at sea. What does all of this cost? So I've got that at about somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. And yeah, and
what do they say boats are? Money pits?
Yeah,
or
break out another 1,000. But the reason we did what we did and spent the money we spent was it was a safety first priority. And none of the things we installed were really comfort luxury items to make our trip more Instagram worthy. It was all to make sure that we didn't turn the thing over, and if we did turn it over, that someone was able to rescue and save us.
So really you need to get ready about a year in advance before you're leaving. Tyler said we a lot when he was talking about prepping the boat, but really that was all him. I was responsible for getting our lives ready to kind of go. So a few of the things that we did was try and save money in the year before that we left, and to pay for the boat, but and also to have money to spend while we're on the water. So some of the things that we did in order to do that is, one, we lived in a share house, so that saves an enormous amount of money. Lucky we were fortunate to live with one of my best mates, who's now one of your mates, Katie Marie Skeen. But we lived in a share house, which meant that we got to reduce the cost of our living for that time before we left. Another thing that I did in order to have things that I wanted while we were on the boat was prepare, from a female perspective, sanitary and beauty products. I'm not a big makeup girl and I don't have a lot of vanity upkeep, so I don't get my hair coloured or cut a lot, or my eyebrows and waxing and all those kinds of things. But if you are someone who does that, that's an enormous cost that I tried to explain to Tyler that he was really lucky that I don't invest my money into. But I do have a few skincare products that I like to use. So every time for a year, every time that I bought one of them, whether it was a face oil, a moisturiser, I bought 2 and put it away. So by the time that we left, I had a big box full of skincare, sanitary items, shampoos, and those kinds of things to make my life more comfortable while we were travelling. So we made the decision to turn back and head back to Adelaide, but continue our travelling adventure. We were members of the Cruising Yacht Club of South Australia, the CYC, and that was a marina that you had to be a member of, so it's a yacht club.
Yeah.
That wasn't something that we needed to do. We needed a place that we could leave our boat and also live on our boat. So we had to change marinas when we got back.
Okay. Part 2, the road adventure. So we got our boat back to 35 South Marina in Adelaide, and we decided to hit the road. So we decided to take the car on a trip. So it was a Landcruiser 76 Series 2007 model. For info, that cost $42,000, which was paid over a long period of time. But the beauty of this car is it came with a few things already installed. So it already had a fridge in the back. It already had UHF installed, and it also had a cargo rack, amongst other things. It was already lifted and the like. So we just needed to get the car ready to go. And as far as I was aware, the car just needed tyres replaced. So we took it in, and that cost about $1,300. But some of the other things that I had done to the car, I had already planned to do a Gibb River trip back in 2019, which fell through. And what I'd installed on the car was an upgraded winch. We had lifted, raised breathers installed. I had a 150 watt solar panel installed, and then a BC-DC charger for that panel. I also installed a console fridge.
Fun fact, he actually left the fridge on when we went sailing for 6 weeks. So when we got back to Adelaide, we went and picked up the car because it was in our old marina car park, and there was a beautiful cold beer waiting for us that afternoon when we picked it up. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah.
But honestly, cashed up miners, forget it.
Overall, the cost of upgrades to the car once I bought it, including upgrading all the tyres and all of that sort of stuff, was around $9,128. We also had to get some more camping gear, a new swag setup. So we bought a Big Daddy Deluxe, which you'll see in our videos as well if you have a look, from Full Drive Super Centre, which cost us about $350 for the entire setup with inflatable mattress and bag and the like for it.
All that good stuff. In terms of getting prepared for life on the sea versus life on the road, life on the road is simpler, less expensive, things are more accessible, and it's just much quicker to do it. So it took us 3 weeks to get the car ready, as opposed to a year getting the boat and our lives ready.
Okay. And we operate.
So let's talk about when you actually get out there. Let's compare what life on the sea is like compared to life on the road in terms of financial cost and then emotional and physical tolls as well.
The meals. So this is both shopping and then eating out. We spent in a month $1,800
on the sea.
On the sea. This is on the sea only. As far as entertainment and going out, so this included every time we bought a pint at a pub, this went into the entertainment cost. Every time we went to the cinema, went into the entertainment cost.
He's a stat man. Whoa.
Okay, so
frothing. He loves this. Go.
The entertainment / going out, that cost us $1,144.
Did it? Oh, in a month. Yeah, that's fine.
In a month. Maintenance costs. So that was $321. And then fuel costs. This is an approximate, but it cost us about $214. Marina fees cost us for a month $128. Business fees, which is an abundance of things, but mostly around subscriptions and camera stuff. That was $112 that we spent in the month. And then living, so pharmacy style things, cost us $168. Okay, so let's compare that to life on the road. Bit different, much more accessible, the pubs around Australia. Ugh. So in a month, what did we spend? So we spent $2,400 on meals, which is much more because of all those pub snitties. In entertainment going out, we spent $2,140. Maintenance cost us $419.50. That included a replacement battery. Fuel cost us $1,259 for a month. Accommodation, which is a new one added to this list, cost us $900 for a month. Business fees, again, subscriptions and cameras and the like, $89. And then the living, the pharmacy expenses cost us $300.
So overall, life on the road, cheaper to prep, more expensive to live. Boat, enormously more expensive to prep, cheaper to live.
Yeah, so it's almost twice as much. So it's $7,500 for a month on the road compared to sailing, which is $3,900 for a month on the sea.
So let's talk about the emotional cost of living on the sea versus on the road. Being out on the water was really difficult for the both of us. So Tyler had a lot of responsibility as the captain of a crew who didn't have any experience outside of a bit of cruising in our local area for a few hours at a time and one course. So when we got out there, it was really difficult because I wasn't an equal contributor and it was high stakes. So we weren't just cruising around the Med where it's a couple of hours and then you get off to go exploring and it's really exciting. We were spending days on end, 10 to 12 hour sails for multiple days in a row just to get to one stop, waiting for some weather to pass and then continuing on. And the objective was for us to get to West Australia. We were on the hunt to just get across. So those types of sails were really big and really hard, and that's why we turned around. I really struggled not being able to contribute as an equal. I don't need to be the captain of a ship, but I need to be able to do everything and anticipate and just be a part of it. And really I wasn't, partly because you were so nervous that you wouldn't leave the captain's seat for the entire duration except to go to the loo. And partly because I didn't have the skills and the capabilities, and the stakes were too high to give me any of those responsibilities. So while I'm, pulling on the ropes and handling the winch at your command, planning the trips, looking at the weather, understanding chart plotting, anticipating when something was going wrong, knowing what was going on around me, I didn't have any of that. I didn't know what was going on half the time. The only thing that I was responsible for was the cooking, which is why there's so many cooking segments in our show, but that's just not enough. I really lost a sense of worth and purpose, which was just really difficult to live with. And when we're making the short videos, I wasn't doing that under sail, so all of that free time was spent sitting around doing nothing. And then when we did get into places where we could go and have a little poke around, I felt under enormous pressure to do the editing, which I was new to, so it was a really big job for me at the time. So we were tired. We had lots of beautiful experiences, but mostly I'm not made for it. I'm not cut out for it.
Yeah. And it's it was a really tough thing to sort of reconcile. Like, as we came across Elliston, I know that we talked about it on the channel before, but I sort of had to reconcile the fact that this person that I was like that I love is struggling here, but also like the immense amount of pressure on my shoulders was nothing that I've ever experienced before. And for people that do know me and what I've done in the past, really understand the scope of what I'm trying to say here, because it's not like I've breezed through life with without putting myself under pressure. The fact that a bad decision by me, or me doing the wrong thing at the helm, me making the wrong decision with the weather, could end up in Danielle dying, and like it was just too much, and I hadn't done my job as a skipper leading up, teaching well enough, and I don't think, like, I really struggled to let go because of that pressure was just so immense that I just needed to be on top of it and in control at all times. And and it's something that's going to take me a while to get past, the fact that we're not sailing anymore. But we've still got Jenny Anna, and we'll get back to her. But yeah.
Cruising in South Australia, sailing in South Australia is hard. I think Tyler's really hard on himself when he says that he didn't do enough to prepare me. We went out as much as we possibly could, but until you get out into the open ocean, you don't know what you're going to face, and you have to go out into the open ocean to sail across South Australia, to get to West Australia, to get to East Australia, and to go to the Whitsundays or to go up to the Kimberley. In order to get ourselves in our boat there, we have to sail across those things to do the fun cruising, and it was just too bloody hard. It was beyond our capabilities at the time. When we got home, there was huge relief, and we were setting out on a road trip. There wasn't a lot of emotional preparedness or emotional stress when we were out on the road at all, because I love road trips and so do you. The car took very little to get prepared. And then when we were out on the road, there was no stresses. I know how to change a tyre. I know how to fill up a tank. And if something goes wrong when you're driving, you can just pull over. And that's the biggest difference. There wasn't as many threatening factors to our life on the road. For those of you who aren't Australian, we were out bush. I didn't see a snake. We saw a donkey. I didn't see a snake. There wasn't rogue spiders. There was no other insects threatening our well-being at all. And there wasn't any wild weather, but we were completely capable. The only thing that I couldn't do that Tyler could was forward driving, and I learnt that really quickly. And we had longer breaks, so we broke up our road trip however you like, because you can kind of pull over wherever and set up the swag. So we felt much more empowered. We planned the trip together, and it was just really, really fun. Living a life on a budget isn't something that is new to me. I've been working since I was 13 and paying for most of my life since that time.
It's very new to me.
It's not that difficult to live on a budget. We saved appropriately for living on the ocean for 2 years. We had anticipated that it would cost potentially $50,000 for 2 years on the sea, and we put $10,000 extra aside, safe hold, in case something disastrous happened. I've travelled on my bare ass before, and I never want to do that again, because emergencies come up. You can't afford, you're scrambling, the time difference, or you don't have reception in the middle of Australia. I never wanted to do that again. So before we left, we made sure that we had that money there, and that we would stop when the money ran out. The decisions that we made as we were travelling around was, is this something that we will come back and do again? Is it something that we are having a similar experience with? For example, when we were in Margaret River, we went into a cave, and there was a few more that we could have seen. And the conversation was, well, we've been to one cave today. How many more do we need to go to? It would be nice to see them all, but we can't. Similar with our eating and drinking, we had a lot of homemade meals, and then we try to only eat out once a day if that was when we were on the road. On the boat, so much easier, because you're in the middle of nowhere, you're cooking everything. You don't even have beers on the boat because they rub and explode. So we just had cheap and cheerful bottles of wine, which was quite easy. And we didn't drink a lot anyway, because we were stressed and didn't want to be...
You want to be able to respond if something goes wrong while you're at anchor.
You don't want to be passed out and not be able to, come to alert, which is what we'd have to do a few times.
Yeah.
Be alert. And
watch your damn videos if you haven't seen them already.
Call your jets. But it's pretty straightforward, and we managed that fine.
Yeah. Okay, so this beggars the question.
Beggars the question?
Beggars the question.
Is that... Are you saying that purposefully?
Yes.
Beggars? Are you being funny? Or do you think that's what it is?
This begs the question.
Yeah.
No.
Alright.
This begs the question.
Would we do it all again?
would absolutely do it all again, and I think it's all fallen into place the way it's meant to.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I am a much happier and emotionally, mentally healthier person for turning back when we did. But I also have no doubt that if we had continued, and when we pick up sailing again in another setting, in a different time, in a different place, that we will continue that journey and continue to learn. It feels like something that is really unfinished, just the circumstances weren't right. Long haul sailing in South Australia is not for me. I don't want to cross the Bight, but I do enjoy cruising. So that's something that we definitely want to do moving forward, whether that's in the Med, whether that's in South America. So we still have Jenny Anna, we're still planning on sailing in the future, but I really enjoyed the road trip as well, which is what we're doing now moving forward, just road tripping around Europe. And I think that it's nicer for our relationship in terms of where I fit and that we're equals in this partnership, or I'm in charge a little bit more.
If anything, it's switched a bit.
I said I didn't need to be the captain.
Yeah, now you are the captain. So like we said earlier in the video, I don't know if we said it earlier because this took several cuts. But if you've got any questions about anything that you've seen or you've heard from us, you want more details on what systems we installed on the boat and what systems we installed in the car. And we're very, very open people about money and costs and the work that we did and what we put into things. Just reach out to us and we'll give you absolutely everything that we possibly can to help you out on your journey. You should be able to reach us through the comments, but if you need, nevernotsailing@gmail.com is the best place to reach us.
It sounds like we're giving a really potentially scary or negative point of view, and some of you might have experienced this and disagree, but this is our experience. This is our costs. There are things that you wouldn't spend as much money on. There are things that you wouldn't install. There are things that you might not do, but this is just how we do it, how we've done it. We're not saying that it's the perfect or right way to do it, but it's our experience that we wanted to share. For anyone thinking about taking time and heading off and doing it, absolutely go and have an adventure of your own, but just know that it's much more just know that there's much more going on behind the scenes in order to be able to do this than just quitting and booking a ticket or buying a boat and setting sail. There's a lot that goes into it. So I hope that this has been informative and helpful and maybe inspiring.
As Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror Picture Show says, don't dream it, be it.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah.
Cheesy. Yeah. Get out of here.
Done.
No, not straight. Mm-hmm.